Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, the 2024 Republican vice presidential candidate, running mate of Donald Trump. Senator, it's great to see you. When you look back on this, I mean, they destroyed Biden's career. They pushed him out of the race. They used the media to whip up the propaganda to try to demoralize Trump supporters. And at the end of all this, Senator, your campaign is up 1 point nationally in the Fox News poll that was just released. Pew has you down by 1 point. But what does this tell you about all the good vibes of the Harris-Walz ticket tonight?
Well, I think it's good vibes generated by the media, Laura, but nobody actually believes it because everybody can look at their checking account, everybody can look at the price of groceries, the price of rent, and they recognize that Kamala Harris's policies, certainly on the economy, but on the border as well, have completely failed. I mean, the American people are actually smart, and the media and the Democrats give them no credit for this, but they think that they can somehow run a campaign purely on vibes. Kamala Harris says in her rallies, Laura, that she's going to reduce inflation starting on day one. Well, day one, Laura, was 3.5 years ago. Her policies are what caused the inflation crisis, and the American people, I think, are just too smart to buy this garbage. It's why we continue to win this race. And look, we're going to run through the finish line, Laura. We're going to need every single vote that we can get, but I'm as confident today as when I joined the ticket that we're going to win this race.
Now, Senator, tonight Walz agreed to a vice presidential debate on CBS, and he wrote on X, "See you on October 1st, JD." Senator, are you in?
Look, Laura, we're certainly going to debate Tim Walz. We just heard about this thing 3 hours ago, so we're going to talk to them and figure out when we can debate. I actually think we should do more than one debate, so hopefully we're going to see him on October 1st, but hopefully we're going to see him either before or after that, because I think it's important for the American people to actually see us discuss our views. If you look at the way that we've run this campaign, Laura, Donald Trump and I are giving every media interview. We're talking to every audience that we can get in front of because our vision is so clear. We don't think that Americans who work hard and play by the rules should struggle to afford groceries. We don't think our children should be killed by fentanyl, and we have a vision for how to implement public policies that are going to secure that border, cut down on the drugs, and bring the cost of everything from groceries to housing down to reasonable levels. Because we have that vision, we're going to go anywhere and talk to anybody. It's a shame that the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign seems to run, not just from the media, but from voters. And I think that, again, the American people will see right through it.
Well, Senator, is there any doubt that you will not be there on October 1st to debate Walz?
Look, Laura, we want to actually look at the debates, look at the moderators, talk about the rules a little bit. CBS reached out to us about this literally 3 hours ago. I was landing from a rally and a press conference in Michigan. I strongly suspect we're going to be there on October the 1st, but we're not going to do one of these fake debates, Laura, where they don't actually have an audience there, where they don't actually set the parameters in the right way, where we can have a good exchange of ideas. In other words, we're not going to walk into a fake news media garbage debate. We're going to do a real debate, and if CBS agrees to it, then certainly we'll do it.
What's it like to work with President Trump? Because we're hearing from all the usual suspects that he's in a bad mood, he's snapping at everyone, he's this and that. But tonight I want to give you the chance to just tell everyone, now that you've had some time to work with President Trump, what's it been like?
You know, it's so weird, Laura, to hear the media reports and to see what they say about him and to actually talk to him every day, sometimes multiple times per day. He's in a great mood. I mean, he just got shot a month ago, of course, and you wouldn't know it seeing or talking to the guy. But I think he feels extremely confident about how we're doing in the election. I think he's very excited about getting to work and solving the problems for the American people. But he's just having a good time. He's laughing. He's telling jokes. He calls people and just wants to, shoot the breeze and understand what's happening in the country because he knows that's an important part of becoming a good leader and doing a good job for the American people. He's in a great mindset, and it's such a dishonest piece of garbage that the media says that he's somehow frustrated or upset. He knows he's going to win this race, Laura, but most importantly, he knows he's going to be able to be a very good president for the American people one more time.
Now, this story about the manipulation of headlines via Google from the Harris campaign, people say, well, it's technically not disallowed. There's no real problem with it. I mean, it's been done before, but it's injecting pro-Harris spin into a lot of these ads. Senator, I think it seems like an effort to obviously help her. They're obviously worried about their internal polls. That's obvious to me tonight. But this is a sign of, to me, not strength, but real desperation on their part that this is what they have to do.
Well, that's exactly right, Laura. And by the way, I talked to a number of people behind the scenes. I don't think the Kamala Harris campaign is especially excited about where they are. They don't nowhere near the optimism that we have on the Trump campaign. But look, Google is doing election interference, and it's not just Google, by the way, Laura. If you go on X or any of the social media platforms, you'll see the Washington Post paying for advertisements for stories that attack me and attack Donald J. Trump. That's not the activity of a media organization. That's the activity of a super PAC, and I hope the FEC looks into it. Same thing with Google and all these big tech companies, Laura. We know that we are playing in a broken, fundamentally unfair game, but we also know that we're doing this for the American people. So they're going to throw everything at us. We're not going to complain about it. We're going to plow ahead, do our job, and remind people Donald J. Trump delivered peace across the world. He delivered prosperity and rising wages here at home. Give him another chance. He's going to do the exact same thing one more time.
Now, Team Kamala, Senator, is still refusing to commit her to doing any press conferences. Check this out.
Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference?
Listen, the Vice President and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing this country. She said last week, we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month.
Senator, that's weeks away. Weeks away.
Look, Laura, if she can't face a media that's fundamentally biased and friendly to her, how is she ever going to sit in a room with Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or any of the world leaders that you have to deal with as United States president? I think it's very revealing, Laura, of her character that she's terrified of the media. She's terrified of taking tough questions. And people say, Laura, the critics say, well, it's because she's not that smart. And I actually disagree with that. I think it's because she knows that if her real views come out, the American people are never going to support a dangerous radical who opened the American southern border. And they don't want somebody who, as a prosecutor, did to San Francisco. They don't want that to happen to the entire country. So I think Kamala Harris is hiding from the media because she's hiding the truth from the American people that she is a San Francisco radical. And if we give her a promotion to President of the United States, she'll just take the policies that turn San Francisco into a disaster nationwide. We're not going to let her. And as much as she hides from the media, she cannot hide from the American people on Election Day.
Senator, I want you to respond to this Axios piece that, again, I think bespoke real concern on the part of the Harris campaign about her radical views in the Biden record, that they're going to pivot away from Biden's record in key aspects and also these old positions, 4 years ago, positions she had when she ran for president. What does this tell you, and is this going to work, the big pivot?
Well, it tells you, Laura, that they have actually ran the poll numbers and they know that this is a complete disaster. The American people don't want to ban fracking. Kamala Harris endorsed that. They don't want to bankrupt Medicare by giving it to illegal immigrants. Kamala Harris endorsed that. They don't want to eliminate private insurance or have an open border. Kamala Harris endorsed all these things and campaigned for them aggressively. They know that if the American people see their candidate, she's going to lose, Laura. So it's our job to remind people, again, of the contrast, that Kamala Harris was a disaster. Donald Trump delivered peace and prosperity. As much as they try to hide her away and run her out of a basement, the American people are smart. They're going to know the truth, and they're going to not reward Kamala Harris when it comes to the election in November.
JD, one of my, Senator, excuse me, I still call you JD. Senator, one of my dear friends tonight said to me, well, all these suburban women, all they care about is abortion, and they don't understand that decision is with the states now. It's not banned nationally, even if some people want it to be banned nationally. It's with the states. What do you say to suburban women out there who are marinating in this propaganda?
Well, first of all, I don't buy that, Laura. I think most suburban women care about the normal things that most Americans care about, right? They care about inflation. They care about the price of groceries. They care about public safety in the streets where their kids play. Look, as Donald Trump has said, he wants the American people at the state level to decide abortion policy. And you compare that to the Democrats who want to do nationalized, taxpayer-funded abortion up to the moment of birth. I think Donald Trump is actually trying to identify the reasonable compromise where he lets California figure out its abortion policy. Alabama and Ohio figure out their abortion policy. That is actually the common sense approach, and it's the approach that's most respectful of the American people. The Democrats are obsessed with late-term abortion and making sure taxpayers fund it. Obviously, Republicans disagree with that, but I think that Donald Trump has charted a very reasonable course for the American people. Let the American people decide this. The federal government, we're going to focus on securing that border and bringing down the cost of groceries and housing.
Now, you went to Yale Law School. You know how to make an argument. You got a 1-minute pitch in a break room. You're a worker somewhere. You like Trump and Vance. And you got someone in California, someone from Massachusetts, and they're like, I don't like these guys. What's the 1-minute pitch to those people who are kind of independent but still somewhat skeptical?
Yeah, Laura, I think the 1-minute pitch is, first of all, don't believe the media lies about Donald Trump. Believe your own remembrance of the record and believe what actually happened when Donald Trump was president. We're not running in a vacuum here, Laura. This is not just campaign promises. This is about a proven record of leadership that Donald J. Trump delivered on. We had the fastest rising wages in the country in 40 years. We had a world that was at relative peace and calm. We had manufacturing that was coming back into our country as opposed to leaving our country. And we had an energy policy that both punished the bad guys overseas, but also rewarded American energy workers right here at home. Donald Trump's policies worked, and if you give him an opportunity to do it again, he's going to do even better the second time around. I think that pitch is what we have to take to the American people. Your life was better when Donald J. Trump was president. Give him another chance, and he'll deliver it again.
Senator Vance, it's great to see you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.